In the Miro, there's this massive board that you can actually copy to your laptop. You can fill it in to some extent during this workshop, but most importantly, later on, you can continue thinking through your company. It's good if you have a laptop. If you don't have a laptop, then you can find someone who has a laptop and be their learning partner together. And hopefully, by the end of this session, you will be, it's kind of like, in Estonian there's this expression, et oled käe valgeks saanud, või kuidas see väljend on? So basically, you've tried it, you've experienced that. And hopefully, you will find out how Miro and all these canvases and boards can help you to navigate and see the big picture in your business and see opportunities. For that,
yep.
Patrick, the stage is yours.
Awesome.
Please.
Yes, thank you. So I hope I'm going to get you through your lunch. So what I would like to do is the following, is I'm going to work in pairs. And why? Because it's way more exciting experience. And the question how we're going to do that is always difficult for you because you're Estonian, you're not comfortable reaching out that easily. Therefore, I help you a little bit. But the other thing is way more difficult. So if you're going to work with somebody, whom are you going to pick the right person? How are you going to do that? So it's easy. You look to the left and you look to the right, and the person that looks more smart than you, pick that person, right? So find, you have a question? Oh, they're both small. Yeah, well then it's a three. You're the three of you. Yeah. So what I want to do is these are tools that we are using a lot to help companies help themselves. So we're going to try that with you as well. But what is important that don't lose your way into those tools, it's about a strategic conversation. So what we started to do, what Harold talked about this morning, is we started to work on the business model canvas, and this was for us just a tool. So for example, you see that business model canvas, you see it right here. And this is just a tool to have a strategic conversation about how you create value. So we're going to talk about this later. I will explain in full. But what is most important is that you have with your team or with somebody else a conversation about how are we creating value at the moment. And therefore, I would like to have the discussion with you so that you can have a discussion together without going very deep into the tools. We can do that later, not necessarily today. So before we start, we need to do a few administrative things. So if you would like to get access to this board, then go to this link. So if you click on this link, you will right away get into this board. I see a lot of you joining. I see also pictures here, so that means that you already have accounts, something like that. And if you are in the board, then what you can do is you select this whole board like this, and you can copy it in your own board if you wish. So you can copy-paste this if you have an own Miro board. You don't have a Miro board? Then what you can do is you are in this board right now, and then you go here and you duplicate. So you go here to these dots, to the board, you duplicate. And then when you do that, you can create a new board name. I will restore first the board. Just a sec. I see you are copying all over the place.
That's why duplicating is another option.
This is what we call a total mess.
Is there an easy way to restore that?
Yeah. So I think what we can do is either you copy it in your own board, or you're also okay if you put it somewhere else. I will just use the middle one. So I'm going to use this one, this board. Are you kind of ready? Otherwise, I'll walk by later. What I would like to do before we start is hear what are your key questions that you would like to address right now. So what are your key questions? So what you can do is you scan the QR code, this one. So with your phone, and then you can leave post-it notes. So I'm curious, like, what are your key questions right now? What would you like to discuss or address? And then we are going to take you into the session. Yeah, this is just, you can use by phone. You don't need to go in the computer. Yes, you can. Yeah. Yeah, so what I read from your questions is, on the one hand, topics around how to use Miro and what it works best. So I'm going to do that at the end of the session. And other questions are around your business and also how to try to understand customers better, understand the problem, and look for new direction of your own business. So in the next 1.5 hours, I'm going to address these 3 topics. So one is how to understand the customer problem better. We're going to do an exercise around that. The second one, what we're going to do is to understand the job to be done for customers and how you can map that out also for more customer segments, because for most businesses you're dealing with more customer segments. And then thirdly, also give a start on your own business model on how you can do that. So what I would like to do first is start with this customer problem. And what I see is when we started to work on the business model canvas and try to understand customers better, then this customer problem was something that companies easily move away from. So explain you why. So when you look at this kitchen company, they want to develop a bio-based kitchen. They didn't ask anything about customers, whether they would need a bio-based kitchen. I mean, I never wake up in the morning and I think I need a bio-based kitchen, right? So what is important when you start to ask those questions, it is really needing to become a habit for yourself and for the companies you work with to really start to open up that question and to discuss like, hey, is this really the type of problem that we are having at the moment? And is it also a problem that our customers have? And do we also know how big that problem is? So what I started to do with my team is we developed a tool ourselves just very recently. And this tool is right here. And is really the first step that you try to figure out what, in fact, is the customer problem that we are talking about. So if you go a little bit deeper, then first I would like to know, for example, given anything around kitchens, like, what is the problem? So how can you describe the problem that you believe is a customer problem? And then the next question is, how often does this problem occur? How often does this happen? And then, when does it happen? And also, what is the size of the problem? And once you figure that out, then you need to discuss, hey, who actually has this problem? Is this somebody in the business? Or is this a consumer? And how do they feel? And once we know that, what is the root cause of that specific problem? And then you need to understand what are the alternatives. So how are customers solving this problem at the moment? And what can we do better if we think about this specific idea? So let's look into a more detailed example. So I don't know if you're familiar with swap feeds. Have you ever heard about that? So this is a Dutch company, and this is a bike as a service. So with this bike, you can rent a bike for 20 euros a month, and then you just have a bike. And every month you pay, right? But if we go to this specific problem, then when it comes to buying a bike, what is the problem if you own a bike? So for example, imagine a student who needs to go to his job, to the university. What do you think the problem is? Storing? Yeah. Repair, yeah. Why? Yeah, so it's spring, and then you want to go to university, and you see your bike is broken, right? Yeah.
Maintenance.
Maintenance, yeah. So that was also what Swapfeeds, the owner of this company, noticed. So what he saw is that mostly in the Netherlands we have many bikes, but then if you want to use it, the bike is broken. But if you then take your bike to the repair shop, it takes time in order to repair, maybe a week or even more. And then when they repair it, you just need to pay for it. And then if you start to use it, then again, maybe something might be broken. So what they saw with Swapfeeds, they said, like, describe the problem. My bike is broken. How often does it happen? Well, once or twice a month. Then when does it happen? Well, at the moment that you just need the bike and need to go to the university. What's the size of the problem? Well, then I can't go. And is this a problem sitting with students or also with other people? That's the question. And then who has that problem? That was the student. How do they feel? Well, you can fill it out. But what are the alternatives? Well, then they don't go to the university, or they maybe walk, or those could be alternatives. What are disadvantages? They miss out colleges, maybe their side job that they miss. And how can we do better? So if you think about that example, that was exactly the reason why they started to create a subscription model, because they saw the problem was big enough for students, and the problem was not a bike, but the problem is to have access to a bike. So what does Swapfeeds do? If you rent a bike on a monthly subscription, if your bike is broken, you pick up the phone, and then they will swap your feeds. So feeds is bicycle, swap is swap, so they exchange the bike, and then you have a new bike again. So you never ever have to worry about maintenance. And then that's really about understanding the right problem. So when I was in the room in an audience for 500 people. Then I interviewed this owner and I asked to Dirk, I said, how many people here would consider a bike to get a swap feeds? So I asked people to raise their hands, and there were only 10% people raising their hands, and I was kind of worried. And he said, no, I'm not worried about that, because people only consider my bike when their bike is broken. So if it's not broken, they won't consider our bike as an option. So this is an example of how companies need to figure out what is the real problem, and then discuss it, and see if they can find proof, and then find a solution for that. So what I want to do is that you work in pairs and that you have each a different role. So one of you will take the role of a company who is responsible for, or a person for training, and the other role is you as a trainer, and you try to understand what the problem is about. Right? Does it make sense? Yep, yep, yep. So choose for yourself who's the service provider and who is the client, and then have a discussion. You can also map out the post-it notes if you want. If you don't want it, if you want to write it down, it's also fine. But then we will do this for approximately 8 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes, and then I will come back to you, and I'm curious what you think when it comes to the service provider, like, what is the problem that they see, and you as a supplier or a trainer can figure out what could be a possible problem that we are looking into. Clear? Yes? Okay, let's do this. I put the timer here, and then I come back to you when... Okay, so let's see what you came up with. Who would like to share your discussion? Not all at the same time. Those people that are not looking. No, don't ask me. No, no, no. Who would like to learn? Maybe nobody's looking. Maybe, did you have a conversation?
Yeah, we actually had a written one and then discussed based on that.
Oh yeah, check the mic, yep. Otherwise.
I can sit down.
In the meantime, you
Yeah. Do you want me to, now I have to
no,
stand
you
up.
can you use this. Yes.
Okay, thank you. We did it in both ways,
Yeah.
in written and also in oral form, using them, the system, yes. But in written ways, what I realized is I thought I knew what is the problem, but actually I need to ask for more to really to understand what is the problem,
Yeah.
because I don't know what is the problem. Right there?
Yeah. So again, so you said you had the discussion, but then you started to realize that you actually don't know the real problem, what's
Exactly.
going on.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I cannot move forward because I don't know what is the real problem.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought I knew.
Good. Thank you. Anybody else who would like to share?
meanwhile, while they decide, how do you understand that you have reached the root problem or cause? I mean, you could go really deep in there, but how do you understand this is deep enough?
Yeah, so one we, like on the one, so we're writing a book right now about this topic, and what you see is that it is not black or white. So you have to look from multiple perspectives, ask multiple questions, but as long as you know that there's still more information out there and you don't stick to the right root cause, then you know. So one is that you try to figure out if they understand the problem themselves, and then you talk about what are the key challenges that you see in your company. So when you start to elaborate on those challenges, then at some point you said, okay, but tell me, what could be a possible root cause in order to figure out what those challenges are about and what is the root cause? And at some point, if they don't understand, then you could also offer a kind of research or a scan throughout the company to interview more people to figure that out. So it's a very good question, because what happened in so what I started to realize in my business is, because we also do training courses, so every now and then this kitchen group was a lady that I knew before, and she started to switch job, so she joined this kitchen group, and then she said, Patrick, I know exactly your approach, give me a proposal, and I will discuss it with the board. And then I said to Marie-José, I said, I'm not going to do that. I would like to talk to the people in your team and see what's going on. So I had, in one morning, 12 interviews. 3 interviews with 12 people in total. And I started to ask these kind of questions. So I said, okay, what are the key things that you're struggling with? What are possible root causes? And then you have all that information together, and then you're kind of getting a grip on what it is about.
And especially if she's a new person in that organization, her answers would be really limited.
For sure, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Anyone wants to share their example?
Yeah.
Not particularly sharing the example, but just reflecting on what you said, that sometimes it's just that you work with the information the client is willing to give you, and maybe the client doesn't feel like it's efficient to, like for example, planning one training, and then we go searching the ultimate root cause, doesn't see it being so efficient there, and we just work with what we have, with the information that we have.
Yeah, so they have to have confidence that they want you to spend time with their team in order to figure out the right root cause. Is that what you mean?
Well, maybe this is my dilemma, is that maybe even if I sense that there is something else there, and I should go deeper to understand what is the root cause, but I also feel that client is not willing to go there. And perhaps this is not even needed at this point. And we just work maybe on the surface. And we both agree that this is fine right now.
Yeah, so I give you another example. So you are right. Like, if they want a training and you offer a training day, for example, with an affordable price for them, then there is no issue. But when you would dive deeper into understanding the real problem, there might be a way bigger opportunity for you and also for them to solve something. So I will give you an example. So we were asked by Rainer Struck. He is the head of innovation at Mars Chocolate in Chicago. So he said, Patrick, we are working on a new concept, and it's called Impossible Treats. So why it's impossible? Because it contains sugar. So he said, can you train our team to work like you work, where you try to understand the problem, do design thinking, and said, okay, that's fine. But then he said, what is the real problem here? Is that had to do with your skills of your team. And then he said, Patrick, I need to promise to my board when a new product will come to market, and I have no clue when this is going to come to market. So yes, it has to do with his people that are not skilled. But on the other hand, his job was to get a new product to the market. and then the training is only part of that. So that's what we start to realize, and he was open about that when we start to dig deeper in what is the real problem that we try to solve. By the way, that's maybe a nice example to show you about understanding customer problems. Then we can go there. Here, so here. Let me see if it's going to show up. My laptop needs a bit more time. So it's not the technique, it's the laptop. Like about this specific project, there was also something that they were not sure about what was the problem to be solved. So this was Rainer, and he needed to work with his team. And then this was his colleague, and he was responsible for that team. And when you look at the challenge about their product, it contains sugar. So they said, we need to come up with something else. So we said, okay, what got us here won't get us to the next step. So what they would normally do, they would hire a company to do the job for them. So a research company. But in the end, they said, we're not going to hire them, we're going to work with you. So we started to work with a user community, because we said, why don't we go directly to these customers and see what the real problem is about? So we set up 3 communities for Snickers, for Twix, and for Mars. And what we did is we asked to express a love letter about the Mars product. And they needed to record a video, and they expressed their love or their hate for that specific product. So these were different video missions that we sent out. You know what happened? After the first videos, people said, we love the texture, we love the bite, we love the product. But what Mars wanted to do, they wanted to create a whole new candy bar. And they thought about the customer segment that was a woman sitting on a yoga mat, thinking about healthy products. So they had no clue who the customer was. And what is the problem that they need to get solved is that people do want to have these lovely snacks, but maybe not the size that it is right now. They would like to have smaller sizes, because then you feel less guilty. But also, you maybe want to replace ingredients. So when we started to understand what the real problem was, and it had nothing to do with the current product, only with the ingredients, then we started to analyze this, and we used AI for that, because then you can have access to a large pool of data. And then we selected 3 concepts that might be interesting. And they said right away, those 7 ideas that you have, we're going to do that with R&D, with our team, and we're going to design 7 different flavors. I said, let's not do that. We're going to fake it, because otherwise it takes way too much time. So we faked 7 concepts, and based on preferences, here we had these 3 that were the right options, so they were feasible and viable, meaning it could be produced and it was financially attractive. So then what we did is we said, now we need to test this. So we needed to test this as a gas station. And what we did, we printed stickers, we wrapped it around the original bars, we put it in the gas station, and we were waiting for the moment that people would buy it. And when people start to buy this and they wanted to pay, then we said, oh, sorry, this is not a real product, but we're very curious why you want to buy this product. And then in the end, we figured out that the oat milk was the most popular, and that's what we started to introduce in the German market. And then it was not 3 years that it took for products to develop, but only 9 months' time. And it had to do with, on the one hand, to collaborate with the teams at Mars, but also to right away reach out to consumers like you and me, and to ask those very clear and direct questions. So I wasn't planning to show this, but when you talked about it, I thought like, yeah. And so we're still helping these people with training, but we saw there was way more to do, and not specifically this single root cause that was the problem. By the way, so I called my friend, I said he was running a gas station, I said, Chef, I would like to have my team there for 2 days. Can we test these chocolate bars? I said, what chocolate bars? I said, well, with healthy ingredients. He said, healthy ingredients. He said, nobody will buy that. I said, what do you mean? So we were sitting there for 2 days at the gas station. Only construction workers come there, and they buy Red Bull and a sandwich with minced meat. Nobody would buy the healthy products. So you see that there's a lot of assumptions about you think that there's a problem at the gas station with healthy bars. Forget it. We tested with WeWork, with retail, and there was a way better solution for that. So what we started to see is that even though we have a tool like the business model canvas that we produced many years before, we realized that only few companies really understand what the problem is about. So when you discuss this with your client, then I started to put this together with the book. So I'll show you here below. I copied it from another board. So the first chapter, what we're going to talk about is what is the real customer problem. And what is interesting is if you are able to solve the right problem, then you right away see the benefits because there is a higher willingness to pay. You see that there's a word of mouth because you really solved the right problem. So here you see all the benefits. But when you think about business to consumer and think about problems, then mostly those problems will always be somewhere about you don't have the right time. So I don't have enough time to do everything I need to do. Meaning maybe with the swap feeds, you don't want to repair it yourself. There's always something around uncertainty or lack of trust. I'm not sure if I'm making the right choice. There's always frustration with complexity because some products are way too complicated to use. There's lack of control and predictability and also dissatisfaction with the quality. So when you start to have this conversation, that this is most probably topics that will pop up. But if you then think about a concept that they didn't get right, so this book is not finished, so therefore sorry for the content, but when you look at Apple Vision Pro, so Apple Vision Pro is this VR that you can put on top of your head, then it's not popular, it's not sold big time, and then the question is why? Well, because it doesn't really solve a customer problem. Even you get more problems. So there's a lack of a real killer use case. It's a very high price. The battery life is not that comfortable. There's not that much content on the VR. And the market is not really ready for that. So did it really solve a real problem? No. So therefore, understanding the problem and see if you can fix it is truly important. But one more is when you look at B2B, then you see with business, there are also problems, but they appear slightly different, right? So these problems are around also wasted of time because our processes are too slow, we waste too much time, we see revenue loss and profitability issues, talent acquisition, retention, so we struggle to find and retain skilled employees. We have a shortage of qualified professionals. Adapting to technology is difficult, so we're falling behind. So if you start to think about having conversations with your clients in this next few weeks, then mostly you will see these kind of topics will pop up, but then related to your profession. So therefore, it was always interesting to see how can you start a conversation with your clients to understand the real problem. And once you figure that out, then you're going to talk very different about how you can help them to address this instead of just touching or scratching the surface. Does it make sense? Yep. Okay, so this was the first topic, really try to understand the customer problem. And I would like to go one step deeper in understanding customers. So this was around discussing the real problem, but if you would like to understand customers, it's also interesting to understand their context, their behavior, etc. So we have a different tool for that. So what we always question when we start to work with teams is like, how well do you think you know your customers on a scale from 0 to 10? So think about it for yourself. So mostly companies say like, yeah, we know because we have all this customer data. Well, that's one end, but mostly it's not put together with the purpose of understanding customers. But if you really would like to understand them, you need to go beyond. Like Karen, who sleeps with her clients, that's maybe a different story, but you just have to do something else really to figure out, okay, so what is it that we can really help with? So when you understand your customers and understand what problem you can solve, then you can just do anything, and you can compete and be better than all the others. Give you one more example. So I was working with a television broadcasting company, and what they do, amongst other things, is they record marathon games. So running marathons, for example, the one in Estonia, what you need for that is you have to have bikes, you have to have a helicopter, so technically it's a kind of challenge. So they said, how can we do in Europe a better job? Because we would like to increase the number of clients. So I said to them, let's talk to 5 of your clients. So we started these conversations, and they were sitting next to me, and they needed to shut up because they were not allowed to talk. So I asked them, not, are you happy with the services, or are you happy with the company? No, what is actually the problem you try to solve when you hire this media company for you? And they said, let me think, that's an interesting question. Well, my job is to put the broadcast on air, because I need to do the broadcasting about this marathon game. If that's not going to happen, I have a big problem. So when I work with your teams, they're not the most, you're not the cheapest company to work with, but your team can make anything happen. If there's a storm, or if the car is broken, or the camera is broken, you guys always fix this, and that is a big, big value to me. And this happened in one interview, we got it back in the next, in all of these 5 interviews. So we started to consult back with the team, and then we thought, okay, now we can change the game. Because why would we ever offer lower prices for these services? Because it has nothing to do with the lower price for recording of the broadcast, but it had to do with the people that fix it, so they have a very good program to broadcast, so they are in the game. And that's what we started to change the proposals, where we didn't put all the technical stuff in the front, we left that in the enclosure, but we talked about the team and how they always solve the problems. So that started to become very clear also on the website, proposals, documentation, and the way we talked about the topic, that it has nothing to do with the technology or how we film or record or broadcast. It's about the fact that we are able to broadcast it. So that was the example of the NAP media. But if you look at the tool that we're going to use, this is Jamie. Are you familiar with Jamie? Who knows Jamie? So he's the founder of the Ring, and it's the door bot. So the Ring is the doorbell, and he had a very strong vision because he said that my materials are high-end, maybe only for the rich, but he said, what I believe is I want to make security and available for everyone. I need to people feel safe at home. So he said, I see increased crime, I see the Internet of Things, the combination, people want to feel safe. So he said, this is a device that contains a camera and that can communicate. So that's what I want to develop. So if you look at one of the customers, and this is Kim, and he's 36 years old. Do you know him? He lives here? No, that's a joke. But do we know Kim right now? So these are his details. Do you think we know Kim now? No, right? So you see that these data and demographics are not enough. So you need to have more information about these clients to understand what problem they solve. So you see it's not about age or where they live or what they've been studying, but it's about the job to be done and the pains and the gains. And that's another tool that we use. I don't know if you're familiar with the value proposition canvas. Who has used this before? Yes, some of you? So what you see right here is when we started to work on the business model canvas, we realized that companies have a hard time to understand customers properly. So this is designed with a purpose. Why? Because this is a circle, and this is all about observation. So in observation, you're not going to talk about your product. The only thing what you would like to know is, what is the problem that people want to get solved? What did they gain? What are they happy about? And then, what are the pains? And for example, if you would put a client of yours, and if there's no job to be done, no pain, they would never ever hire you. Because why would they? So you either need to create a pain, or understand how others have been solving similar problems that they start to connect. That's the whole trick about understanding customers and how you can offer something that's meaningful. So the job to be done is something that people try to get done in their daily lives. So job to be dones, we have a hierarchy for that. So job to be dones can be very functional. It can be more emotional, like with the ring bell, or it can be more social. We only have a few examples of that. So when you start to think about that, this is also, when you think about Kim, what are the jobs to be done for him if he would acquire a doorbell? I mean, very simple products. So on the one hand, he said, I want to be a host. So I would like to be a good neighbor and also take care of my family. I would like to protect my family. So these are the jobs to be done, right? So again, be a good host, be a good neighbor, and take care of the family so that you feel safe. Then when it comes to pains, when you think about a doorbell, then missing deliveries because there was no one home, visitors because you were not there, and not knowing who's in the door, right? So these are the real pains that he has. When you look at gains, this is more positive. What are the benefits that they're looking for? And this is more they want to be a guest and or wants guests to feel at home, but also keep an eye on the property. That's a gain because even if there's nothing, he feels safe, and also feels safe for his surroundings. So when you then look at this value proposition canvas and you put it in here, then you get a very good feeling of what actually a possible or potential client is want to get done, what kind of pains and gains do they have. And what I like about this is every time when we do assignments with businesses, this is something that people don't have properly done. And if you use ChatGPT, you can really get already a good basis. And this is a good start to try to understand, okay, so if now the product is Ring, how is it going to take care of the jobs to be done? How is it going to reduce the pain? And how is it going to increase the gain? So this is a way of thinking that can help you to do that. So, to give you one more example, let me see. One more thing is that when you look at business to business, you see that there are multiple customer segments. So this example of Kim is just one consumer who will pay for the service, and he's also aware of the pains and the gains, and he will use it. But when you look at business to business, you might have somebody who needs to buy the product, somebody else is going to use it. So therefore, business to business is slightly more complicated. So you really need to have a good picture of whom you're dealing with. It could be the CEO, it could be a manager, it could be maybe procurement, or it could be a team manager of a department. And let me see if I have one more example. So when you look, for example, at security issues, if you look at the B2B segment, you can have a head of IT or also a user of the product. So when you look at the head of IT and you think about security issues, then it's way more about protection against cyber attacks. It's being able to monitor, detect these breaches, insights in leaks, onboard organization easily, and then quickly responding to hacks. But then if you look at the user, so this could be a user, then they have slightly or very different jobs to be done. So it's more about being able to log in, having access to your documents. That has nothing to do with safety or security. Pain is that you cannot log in, or gain is that it get easy, but pain if you can't log in, or there's a risk to be hacked. So you see that this is a very different way of understanding your customers for B2B, whether you look at it for B2C. So what I want to do next is when you go back to the Miro board, then we could do the same for your client, or in your case, let me see, go back to the board. Because then we go one step deeper, and the way it works is you can have something in mind, and you can do this together, and you think of who would be your potential customers that you would like to sell training services for, even when it's internally. What is this person about, and what could be his or her role? And you can pick just anyone. For me, it's more to become a little bit more familiar with this exercise. And it's always easier if you think about a specific person. So if you have somebody in mind who, for example, is I mean, a CEO at a company, and then try to figure out what are the jobs to be done for that person, and what are the pains and what are the gains. So at the beginning is a little bit hard, but when you get used to this kind of thinking, then the next one and the one after is way easier. And then afterwards you can also have that interview and see if you are right about understanding his or her problems and jobs to be done. Right? So I would like to see if we can spend another 10 minutes about this. If you're done earlier, then I can see. So pick one on your own board. One that is somewhere here or in your own environment, and just try to see if you can come up with a profile, so a person, a role, and then work on job to be done, pains and gains. Right? Okay, so what about this one? Maybe. Don't know. Any feedback? Anything you want to share?
It could also be a question, I assume.
Or questions?
I like to think out loud. All right, so isn't it so that quite often the gain and the pain are sort of the same things?
You think, but it's not. No.
No?
So normally you think like, oh, I can copy the positive and the negative. You could, but you also see that some are different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, in our example, they are quite from the same root cause.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's normal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what did you see in jobs to be done, or can you give some examples?
Well, in our case, the aim was to have the training group, having participants
Yeah.
in the training group.
Yeah.
That was the job to be done. that the training has to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But I had another thing. No, I forgot what I wanted to say. Pain and gain. Oh, if you have any questions that would help to come up with these gains and pains, examples of the questions to ask, perhaps from the client.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will put it in the board. Yep.
That's all.
Okay. Any other ideas of what you put up as pain, gain, or job to be done? So the way we are using this is on the one hand to make sure before you do this type of questions or interviews that you try to understand what is the problem about. So we are working for a private wealth company, and they target individuals who have more than 3 million free cash. And you know what the problem is? They're not interested in investments or in, but they simply don't know what to do with that money. So what we got back from interviews all the time is that we have taxes that will come if we don't invest, or we pay too much tax and I don't know what to do with my money. So if you would look at the website, you would not advertise on low investment fees or whatsoever. It's a very different thing what we are seeing with this audience, and we see that again and again. So we always do this with teams, just do this before interviews, and then figure out, hey, was I right, or am I on the wrong track? And now, JTBD can help you big time, but just running some of these exercises. And what you will see is that if you talk to these people and really do a good job, then you see that they talk beyond training or whatsoever, because they look at the business goals that they want to get solved. So for example, I put here I said, can you give me, here I said, give me a job to be done, paying gain for a CEO of a telecom company when it comes to skills and training of his people. So he put it in Dutch. I said, in English, please. And then the job to be done for a CEO, he needs to keep up with rapid change of technology. He needs to deliver an excellent customer experience. He needs to improve operational efficiency, accelerate innovation, and make the company an attractive place for talent and improve retention. So these are jobs to be done, right? And they're all business related. Then when you look at the pains, you see skill gaps, resistance to change, not able to create measurable impact, loss of knowledge, high training costs. And when you look at the gains, like a ready workforce, future-ready workforce, improved customer experience, stronger company culture. So now you see that you can get the kind of language that you can talk about when they are in that position and you have something to explain or to offer your services. So it helps you here when you look at the job to be done, pains and gains. So when you look at this tool, then you can show on this side the jobs to be done, etc. But then you can right away offer your training services and have language that resonates way better with the problems that they face and what they need to get solved, right? So if you think about this profile and the job to be done, and you would come up with a training solution, then at least you should address these points and explain how you can help them to do a way better job. And then you see that the willingness to pay for these kind of services is way higher, because this is the agenda that he has on his mind, and if he doesn't perform, then there will be another CEO who has to do the job, right? So I also asked one profile, I said, do the same for a team manager for a telecom customer care center. And then it was, he needs to make sure that he have the right skills to handle customer inquiries, improve the resolution rates, stay updated with the products, use CRM, pains, high attrition rates, inconsistent service quality, low engagement, complexity of telecom products, and here you have the gains. So they are somewhat related, but also very different for specific profiles. Does it make sense? So it could be that for your specific business, that you might see 2 or 3 different levels for business to business. Maybe somebody who's responsible for a team, maybe somebody responsible in HR and training, and maybe sometimes an individual on C-level. And of course, those who will follow the training themselves. That's also a customer group that you need to address. But they're all related, but very different. And I think once you get these right, then you can do a better job in selling your own services. So I will be mindful of time, and I will have another topic that I want to discuss with you, because now everything will come together in your own business model. So when you talk about the business model, for who is the business model canvas new? Who has never seen it or discussed it? So everybody's seen it? So if I give you a heads up on this one, take some time. So what you will see is that in the business model, your customers will come together and your value propositions will come together. So this is the way how you can capture and create value. So when you look at the business model boxes, these are supposed to be 9, but we added the lower layer as well, because we look more at sustainability. So then you have societal benefits and environmental benefits, but also the cost side to that. So again, we need to just understand who are these customers, what are the value propositions we offer, how do we make money, then what are the channels that we use, what relationships or what characterize our relationship, and then what activities are we doing, who are the key partners, and then what are the costs to that, and what are the negative and positive impacts on society and planet. And that's the whole business model canvas that you can put together for yourself to think, if I'm a training company or a training professional, how am I gonna add value, and how is this changing now that I'm seeing that I need to do another job? So the example that we use often is the case of Nespresso. I mean, this we're using for many, many years. But I think what Nespresso tells you very clearly is that they know their customers way better than any other company who is in the coffee production, because they have their own channel, so they sell it through their own stores. Not anymore, because the license or the IP has ended, but because they did that, they know exactly who the customers are, what they like, what they don't like. And normally, supermarkets would know, but they know way more about flavors and preferences in different regions for different people and households. So what they offer is not only B2C, but also B2B. And that is something that I would see in your business model as well. You need to make a choice about offering to B2C or to B2C and B2B as well. And when you then look at companies that have also technology in place, then you see their business model is also very different. So here you see that it's for active fitness people, but also for people search for a healthier lifestyle. Then they have Fitbit Premium, deeper insights, and insights in workouts, and very social. So when you look at technology, it's not described here. It's a product, but it's way more the application that they use. So they sell in online, offline stores, websites. They have health indicators that can motivate you, and they have revenue streams like wearables, accessories, and also subscriptions. So what we can do is, and it doesn't need to be right away, like that you finish this today, but if you look, for example, at a business model canvas, and this is just an example, then we need to just figure out like what are your key segments that you would like to operate, but also if you would add numbers to that, then you would try to see how much revenue would I get from specific segments, and how is that going to help me get better decisions on my business model, right? So one is to put it together, and then secondly, put the numbers there, and then thirdly, also try to understand what are the strengths and weaknesses of my business model. So you can then identify what are the strengths and what are weaknesses, and that helps you also to come up with a better or a redesigned business model. So when you look at the board, go back to the board. Then in this section, here we look at the current business model, so you can put your current business model together. Here on the right-hand side, it will ask you questions on how to evaluate your business model. So it will ask questions like, how large and attractive is the market potential? Can you work at scale? What are the activities? So this is going to help you to understand that better and also do a SWOT analysis. But what I also did is I put all the models that we discussed this morning, I put it here. And then you can also ask yourself, what would my new business model look like? So you could come up with a new business model and then see what kind of customer segment you would have and what kind of problems you would address. So it's a lot information at the same time, maybe. But what you can do right now is to try to use one of those ideas that are here and try to see if you can put a new business model for you together.
Where they should start filling in the business model, from which sections?
I think it is best to start right here and to come up with a new value proposition. So you could ask here, what is these services that I'm going to offer that I haven't offered before? And I think it would be interesting to challenge yourself to see what a subscription model would look like. So can you offer something as a subscription model so that you have a long-term relationship with clients? And for example, give you one insight. The way we use this Miro board is for me being able to also sell subscription services. And why? Because we can show the whole methodology, training, everything in that board, and that is something that customers are willing to pay for. So you can start either here to come up with an idea, like one of the 7 concepts that I showed you there below, or you can start with the subscription. Let's do this for 10 minutes, just that you get a feel of it. And then I will talk a little bit more on how we use Miro and how it could help you as a professional to also create a subscription model or a hook or a lock-in with your clients. Yeah. 10 more minutes. Any ideas or feedback, questions about your business model? So what I started to put up, I thought that, no questions? No. So
super secret.
yeah, exactly, super secretive. So if I would think about a business model, if I would set up the company today with Harold, then these are the must-have ingredients. And why? Is, you know, like when I would work as if we would run the company, we would really try to use the benefits of having working for the B2C side, but also for the B2B. Why? Because with the same effort, we can get way better training courses, margin, etc., because we have bigger clients. So I think for a training company, you should address both. So here is if I would see this as a CEO of a mid-sized company, maybe a team manager, it can also be procurement, an individual. What you will see as your value proposition is that there needs to be personal benefits, and this is mostly addressing to career job to be done for people individually. Then operational benefits more for team managers, and business benefits more for owners, CEO, C-level. And what I believe is that these benefits will really help you to do a way better job because you know what the business issues are, and it's not about skills, it's not about the training, it's about the whole game that you play for the company so that they can perform better in their business. Then the training services that you offer, these can be different packages, for sure. But these packages, the products, are just the minimum that you need. But those benefits and the proof of that, that's what really can help your company go forward. And I think on top of that, what we discussed this morning, I believe you have to have a point of view how you see that these skills can be trained best. Is it a combination of hybrid? Is it a combination of physical? Is it digital? So I think that on top of that, you should be able to explain why they should hire you and the way you look at skills and development of that. And I think that was summarized best when you listen to Jeff Bezos. What doesn't change is that companies need skills. What doesn't change is there is a need for people to get those skills. Only the packaging is changing, the speed is changing, but not that much. So here I would see that you need to figure out that you can develop personal relationships with all of them, either digital or physical. There would be an online environment, physical website, there would be tooling. I think you could sell one-off, you should look into subscriptions, and we need to figure out a way that we can also sell maybe other training products and get a fee for that. Because then Harold and I can just sit there, do nothing, and still we have an income, right? So this is a must-have to explore. And then here, we need to figure out what makes us unique, so what are key resources that we have. And then the activities is all about marketing and training, and we need to figure out what are key partnerships that we can tap into. So, and then what you will see is that I assume that you can make a selection of what kind of services would you like to include that you see popping up right now. So how could you help to develop skill-based learning? Would it be an option that would be attractive? So if I would sit together with Harold, then we first started to try to understand customers, and then what we see here, these are options that we could offer. So when we go out there and have conversations with clients, we're gonna ask what the problems are about, but maybe also to figure out what are the current services that you use, and are you happy with that, and are you familiar with the latest developments, and how could we help? So I think that this part are 7 options. It's a lot, but when you start to look at it more often, you might see some similarities and some that you may be not interested in. But this is a way to start to look what's going on and see if this can be part of your business model or your value propositions. Would it make sense? Questions? So when I looked at the board, there were a few things that you had questions about, and we addressed the questions when it comes to oops, what's here? So new business directions, how do I know I have the right customer problem? I think also when you look at the statistics, when we work with Unilever or IKEA, then mostly between 100 and 150 people, they feel comfortable that they are on the right track. The thing that we always use, if we hear less new information, then you also know that you're kind of on track to understand customers and what problems they have. This, I don't know who put this here. This is a topic that IKEA is thinking about, and also a topic that Miro is very excited about. So if you want to talk about this, because what they say is, when you look at retail, the key thing is that you would like to have very clear onboarding, everything is standardized, everything's the same, and how can you communicate that to your employees? So this is a topic that they dive into. And this is also opportunity when you look at training courses, how can you do onboarding fast and standardized and in one way? I will show you a board how we are using this for at the moment. So good ideas for selling micro offers. I think these micro offers, if you are able to visit a mid-sized company and try to see what are the current needs and how people train themselves, you get a very clear picture of what these micro offerings can look like. And let me see. Yeah, so if you have 3 target audience, yeah, you can put it together in one business model, but it would be good that you have a value proposition canvas to understand that. This is what we put together for education. I think it will really help you to get a better sight on how you create value and what customers you're dealing with, and if your value propositions are attractive and make money. 2 more things. One, I had a chat with this lady here in the front, and then you said, I would like to understand your problem better. Maybe Harald, can you help out to put a microphone? Yeah. So you said, I have a problem with the business. Can you explain?
It's a complex business.
It's a complex business, yeah.
Do you want me to explain? I had a chat with her.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's actually
Okay.
about childhood trauma and how do you cure people who had that. It's a super tricky topic because the question is who will finance that? Who is open enough to speak about it?
Yeah.
So I think it's a bit complicated example for a regular business model development because it's a very sensitive topic, but it's kind of like a government level topic who should take care of that, but I think it's a bit trickier if the kind of the owner of the problem is either the individual themselves or the government, because then it's harder to develop a business model that you would serve the government with that.
There are a few things. One is when you look at these type of business models, then there is no direct relationship between the value proposition and the segment and the revenue model. Why? Because, for example, it could be that if you are abused, then you might not willing to pay for that or something like that. So that's why often a government can step in to subsidize this. Yeah. Oh, it's also expensive. Yeah. So then. Yeah. So then you need to address like, who is this customer segment, the government, what do they get benefit, what are the high costs and how they're going to pay with that. So we have in the Netherlands a big issues on people and families that start to get into debt. So then we need to explain on a global level in the Netherlands, what does it cost if people start to get into debt situation. So then you have different segments, different value proposition and different costs and society costs. And that's how you start to play with those boxes.
If it's more like a non-profit idea in a sense, can you still use the business model canvas, or should you kind of develop this impact model canvas instead.
Well, you can use other canvases for that, but
I just made up an impact model canvas. I'm
yeah.
not sure there is.
no.
tool
So, for
like that.
example, when you look at governmental services, there's no direct relationship between the one who is benefiting and the one who is paying for that. So that's the problem that you need to solve. So therefore, there is less interest. It's harder to find that kind of audience. Yeah.
But it's still a worthwhile mission.
Yeah.
It's complicated, but it's worthwhile. So anyone into that topic, she needs more support, more people to dive in. Whoever.
So yeah, one more topic, like when you think of using Miro in a way. So, you know, like maybe you feel that I'm trying to sell software, but actually I'm not. But what I see that the benefits are very big. For example, when you look at the benefits of collaboration with the Mars Chocolate Company, it was really significant. And therefore you see that collaboration starts to pay off. But the other thing, what I learned with our own methodologies and tools, there were tools and stuff sitting in PowerPoint, in Excel files, in Word, and it's very, very hard to manage. So when we started to use these boards, for us, it was way easier to standardize stuff and information. And this is a board that we use together with Miro when we prepare workshops. So everything here, like the instruction, in detail also, sessions that you can do for that, the basics, it's all here. So if I would ask a team member to help a new client with Miro onboarding, all the information is here. So how you create diagrams, how you collaborate with real time and not synced. So this is then a map and information where this is the single source of truth about all the aspects of this specific training of templates and diagramming. So for me, I think it could be an opportunity for you to think about what are the key training topics that I have and what kind of methodologies I'm using, and maybe for onboarding or other activities. This is a very easy to use tool. You can use your own IP, and you can charge clients for that in a subscription model. And you can also put videos and content in there. So I mean, there are many other tools, but what I like about this, it is slightly solving a different problem, but for you as well, it's easy to maintain. And you can also sell a subscription model for companies that you do the maintenance and then physical trainings in combination with support on with a tool like this. So it's coming, what I see with other partners globally. So I thought, yeah, it's interesting also to show this to you. How can you and your clients benefit from such a concept that you have a digital collaboration environment? And there are many tools, but yeah.
So if you're selling, like licensing with a subscription fee, the templates that you have now, and you're proposing if anyone creates their own templates in their industry, they could license that. But how do you protect it from just being copied and that's it? I mean, what's the key for people to keep paying a monthly fee for something they already got?
Yeah, so
in the template case.
Yeah, so one thing is that I think when you keep updating this with the latest information, etc., I think that's a crucial thing. And for example, if you can be part of an onboarding process for clients and also with specific skills and training, then every time they will revisit this as part of that, because there could also be exercises, etc., in there. I agree with you, if you would just offer this and it would sit there and nothing would happen, then there's no value. So knowing, for example, that we are now working with Enterprise Estonia also about this setup with this innovation engine, they could also start to use this themselves, and then they have the IP as well. The only thing what we do is maintenance, but it's not that big thing.
So it's kind of 15 years ago, a book was a thing of getting it out, and now this could be a way of getting something reach.
And the other thing is, like, if you set up an experiment, you just try and see if it works instead of discussing for hours or try to figure out, yeah, it would not work. Just you will see it, offer to a few clients and see if it starts to work. So what this did is that we started to offer now also quick starts on brainstorming, quick starts on prototyping. So if I would sell a quick start, it would be a very low amount and attractive for clients, but my team members can instantly run it. So it's not difficult on that side as well. So this is how we could make benefit of such a tool.
Any questions from the... Maybe some final tips for interviewing your clients, your customers, how to go out there. I was actually thinking that it would be one way that you have two people. One is interviewing, other one is taking notes in the Miro board and somehow mapping that. Any advice you would give on that? Because without interviewing the customers and people, we just work on the assumptions, but this is where new information comes in. You mentioned a lot of stories of in the candy bar and coffee industry. You basically go where the people are. But let's say if it's office people, how do you approach them? How do you interview them?
Yeah, so mostly one thing is crucial, that you never discuss the specific topic. So if you're interested in how people use socks, never use the word socks, because then you start to ask way different questions. So it's a very interesting exercise. And the other one is you really need to come together, because the one can really observe and ask questions, and the other one can make notes, or maybe you create video or pictures for that. And when you look at office environments, it's more difficult. But I think there's a difference between a safari, where you just observe behavior, and there's a difference between interviews, where you start to ask these questions. And if you would like to look it up, there's a free online book. It's called The Mom's Test by Rob Fitzgerald, sorry. And that's a quite interesting book, because it describes exactly how you need to do that.
M-O-M, mom, right?
Yeah, Mom's Test.
Like
because
moms.
He said you should never ask your mom the question, because she loves you and she will always say, this is a wonderful product, I love you. Yeah. All right. It's about time, right? So what I will do, I will clean up this board and put the other tools that we discussed there, so that you can do with it what you want. You can copy it in your own board, or yeah.
Better duplicate, because otherwise other people will be duplicating with your amazing... yes.
Awesome. All right.
Let's give it up for Patrick.
Yes.
Thank you.